The discovery. The Perseverance wasn't built for beauty. Its hull was scarred and patched, bearing the marks of a dozen micrometeorite storms and hasty repairs. Captain Maya Reeves liked it that way. The ugliness was honest. In space, honesty kept you alive. Maya stood on the bridge, her tall frame silhouetted against the vast emptiness beyond the viewports. At 43, her face was weathered by radiation and stress, dark hair streaked with premature gray. Her eyes, though sharp and calculating, remained unchanged from her academy days. "Captain, we're picking up anomalous readings from the Centauri Delta sector," Lieutenant Park announced, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Energy signatures unlike anything in our database." Maya nodded without turning. "Natural phenomenon. Negative. The patterns suggest artificial origin. But it's strange, almost like the energy is alive." Now she turned, interest peaked. The Perseverance led a fleet of 17 vessels, the remains of Earth's final desperate push to colonize before the planet became uninhabitable. They carried 20,000 souls in cryosleep and another 5,000 awake crew. Every resource was precious, every detour potentially fatal to their mission. And yet, how far off our course? She asked. 8 days at standard burn, Captain." Maya studied the data floating before her. Humanity had encountered alien life before, microbes on Mars, simple organisms in Europa's oceans. But never anything intelligent, never anything technological. The universe had proven vast and largely empty of minds like their own. "Divert the fleet. Let's see what's out there." Commander Ortiz stepped forward, his prosthetic leg whirring softly. "Captain, with respect, we don't have the resources for exploration. The colony site. We'll still be there in 8 days, Javier." Maya's voice was firm but not unkind. If these readings indicate a spacefaring civilization, the potential benefits outweigh the costs. And if it's hostile? Ortiz pressed. Maya's lips quirked in a humorless smile. "Then they'll learn why the Galenian traders called humans Deathworlders." The term had stuck after humanity's brief contact with the only confirmed spacefaring species they'd encountered, a race of methane-breathing merchants who found Earth's conditions horrifying, and humans themselves terrifyingly resilient. They'd traded some technology, warned humanity to stay in their own system, and departed, never to return. But humans had never been good at staying put. The fleet adjusted course, 17 massive ships burning hard toward the unknown energy signature. In her quarters that night, Maya reviewed Earth's history, the cataclysmic climate shifts, the resource wars, the mass extinctions. Humans had survived it all, adapting to conditions that grew more punishing with each generation. They'd turned their planet into a death world through their own actions, then evolved to survive it. Now they carried that adaptability among the stars, looking for a new home. 8 days later, they found something else entirely. "My God," breathed Science Officer Ilani Zhao as the visuals came in. "It's beautiful." Beautiful wasn't Maya's first thought. Alien, yes. Impossible, perhaps. Before them hung a planet that seemed made of living crystal. Its surface fractured and reformed continuously, sheets of translucent material flowing like water yet solid as stone. The energy readings emanated from the planet itself, pulsing in complex patterns that defied immediate analysis. "Life signs?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Billions," Zhao confirmed. "But unlike anything in our classification systems, the entire planet appears to be a single interconnected organism, with distinct nodes. Entities, I'm not sure what to call them." "Intelligent life," Park added. "Those energy patterns, their communications. I'd stake my career on it." Maya's decision came quickly. "Prepare a shuttle. Small team. Zhao, Park, myself, and security detail. Commander Ortiz, you have the fleet." Ortiz looked like he wanted to object, but nodded sharply. He'd follow orders, even when he disagreed. That's why Maya had chosen him as her second. The shuttle approached the crystalline world cautiously. Up close, the surface was even more mesmerizing. Shifting planes of translucent material that reflected and refracted light in hypnotic patterns. "There's a structure ahead," the pilot announced. "Artificial, I think. Rising from the crystal surface stood a formation too regular to be natural. A perfect pyramid comprised of hexagonal segments, each pulsing with inner light. The shuttle landed on a flat area nearby, the surface surprisingly solid beneath them. Maya was first to step onto the alien world, her environment suit sensors immediately feeding data to her HUD. Breathable atmosphere, moderate radiation, temperature fluctuating rapidly, but within human tolerance. "Maintain alert status," she ordered the security team, "but keep weapons lowered. We're guests here." They approached the pyramid structure cautiously. As they drew closer, the crystal surface beneath their feet began to pulse in synchronization with their footsteps. Park crouched, placing his gloved hand against the ground. "It's responding to us," he said, wonder evident in his voice. "Almost like." The pyramid's apex suddenly split open, unfolding like a flower blooming in fast forward. From within emerged a figure that defied immediate comprehension. A humanoid shape composed of the same crystalline material as the planet, but constantly shifting, facets reforming as it moved. Maya stepped forward, hands empty and visible. "I am Captain Maya Reeves of the colony vessel Perseverance. We come in peace." The crystal being inclined what passed for its head. Then, impossibly, it spoke, not with sound, but with light. Patterns cascaded across its surface, translating somehow directly into Maya's mind. "You bring death with you." Maya froze. "We mean no harm. Not into iron. Nature. You are ifo or gd in adversity. We see your history in your biology." Zhao stepped forward. "You can read our biology. We are THALASSIANS. We are EAD, all patterns. Your species evolved on a world that tried to kill you daily. You adapted, survived. Cone you aired." "Deathworlders," Maya muttered. "Yes, we have no such strength. Our world near to our US. We and it are one, but now it dies. We die." For the first time, Maya noticed the fractures, not just the natural flow of the crystalline surface, but actual cracks that spread across the landscape. Some areas had gone dark, the inner light extinguished. "What's happening to your world?" she asked. The Thalassians' light patterns dimmed. "Kuori destabilis. On. Our world fragments. 3 of your montages until astrophaik. FAILUR. We TNNOTLEAV. We are bound to this place. Your entire species will die." Zhao asked, horror evident in her voice. "Yes, unless." The being turned its faceted face directly to Maya. "Unless DEATHORLDERS, he'll PUS survive." Back on the Perseverance, Maya faced a divided command staff. The shuttle had returned with detailed scans of the Thalassian planet, and the nature of the crisis became clear. The crystalline world's core was fracturing due to unexpected gravitational stresses from a passing rogue planet decades earlier. The damage had been slow but irreversible. "We cannot risk our colony mission for an alien species," Resource Officer Tanaka insisted. "We're carrying the last viable population of humans from Earth. Our responsibility is to them." "The Thalassians are a sentient, advanced civilization," Zhao countered. "How can we just leave them to die when we might help?" Commander Ortiz looked troubled. "Even if we wanted to help, what could we do? Their planet is literally breaking apart." Maya had been silent, reviewing the data again and again. Now she looked up to decision made. "We don't need to save their planet. We need to save enough of it for them to survive." The room fell silent. "Explain," Ortiz finally said. Maya activated a holographic display showing the Thalassian world. The Thalassians exist as a networked consciousness across their crystalline substrate. Their bodies are just temporary focusing points. What if we could preserve a large enough section of their world to maintain critical population mass? You're suggesting we, what? Cut out a piece of their planet? Tanaka asked incredulously. Precisely. Maya's fingers danced across the controls, highlighting a region. Their world is dying anyway. But if we use our mining equipment, reinforced with their crystalline technology, we could extract a stable section before the catastrophic failure. And then what? Tow it behind us. Ortiz's voice dripped skepticism. Initially, yes. Maya's eyes gleamed with the challenge. Eventually, we integrated into our colony world. 2 species, sharing one planet, just as the Thalassians share one consciousness. The room erupted in objections and questions. Maya let them argue, knowing the fundamental choice was simple: leave and survive alone, or risk everything to save another species. After hours of debate, she called for quiet. "I've heard your concerns. They're valid. This mission will strain our resources, delay our arrival at the colony site, and introduce countless unknowns." She paused, looking each officer in the eye. "I'm ordering us to proceed anyway." Tanaka stood to object, but Maya continued. "The Thalassians call us Deathworlders. They meant we're dangerous because we evolved in harsh conditions, but that harshness also taught us something they never learned: how to adapt, how to solve impossible problems, how to save ourselves even when the odds are overwhelming." She stood, commanding the room by presence alone. "Now we have a chance to prove that Deathworlders aren't just survivors. We can be saviors too. We can show that the strength forged in adversity can be used to protect, not just to conquer." Maya knew not everyone would agree. Some would see this as risking humanity's future for aliens they'd just met. But as she looked at the image of the dying crystalline world, she knew this was the right choice. Prepare the fleet. We have 3 months to save a civilization. The Salvation. The human fleet hung in orbit around the crystalline world. 17 ships formed into a loose defensive perimeter. On the Perseverance's observation deck, Captain Maya Reeves watched teams of engineers working on the planet's surface, their powered exoskeletons gleaming against the shifting crystal backdrop. "They said it couldn't be done," Commander Ortiz remarked, joining her at the viewport. Perhaps they were right. 2 weeks had passed since Maya's decision to attempt the rescue. 2 weeks of round-the-clock labor, of technical setbacks, of grumbling from those who believed the mission was doomed from the start. "It can be done," Maya replied, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "We've stabilized the first extraction point. Chief Engineer Kovic reports we're ready for the initial cut." Ortiz frowned. "And you're certain the Thalassians can survive this surgery?" "They've guided the entire process. The section we're removing contains their primary consciousness nexus. As long as we keep the crystal matrix intact during extraction, they'll survive." "At what cost to us?" Ortiz asked quietly. Maya had no easy answer. They had already diverted critical supplies, repurposed colony equipment, and pushed their people to the breaking point. The original 3-month timeline until catastrophic failure had been revised downward twice as the Thalassian world deteriorated faster than predicted. "We're committed now," she said finally. "Inform the fleet. Operation Crystalline Arc begins in 6 hours." On the planet's surface, Chief Engineer Dmitry Kovic supervised the final preparations. A burly man with a thick beard and scarred hands, he had initially been among the most vocal critics of the rescue mission. Now he worked with single-minded determination, his expertise in mining operations proving invaluable. "Power levels optimal," he announced into his comm, checking the massive cutting array that surrounded a 20-kilometer section of the crystalline surface. Harmonic stabilizers locked. Beginning final sequence. The cutting array, a hybrid of human mining lasers and Thalassian energy matrices, hummed to life. Beams of coherent light, precisely calibrated to the crystalline structure's resonant frequency, penetrated deep into the planet's crust. First phase successful, Kovach reported as data streamed across his HUD. Proceeding to Stage 2. Above, the fleet repositioned. 3 cargo vessels moved into low orbit, massive grappling systems deploying toward the planet. These ships, originally designed to transport building materials for the colony, had been retrofitted with reinforced towing mechanisms. As the cutting beams reached their target depth, tremors began rippling across the planet's surface. Alarming fracture patterns spread outward from the extraction site, far more severe than their models had predicted. "Instability increasing," shouted Lieutenant Park from the monitoring station. "The planet's structural integrity is collapsing faster than expected." Maya's voice came through the comm, tense but controlled. "Can we complete the extraction?" Kovach studied the readings, making rapid calculations. "Yes, but we need to accelerate. The entire planet may break apart within hours, not days." "Proceed at maximum speed," Maya ordered. "All non-essential personnel, evacuate to the ships." The cutting array's power increased, the beams intensifying as they carved through the final layers holding the massive crystal section to the planet core. The vibrations grew violent, forcing the engineering teams to activate magnetic anchors on their boots. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from the planet's core, visible through the widening gaps in the surface. Emergency klaxons wailed across all channels. "Core breach." Zhao's voice cut through the chaos. "Critical destabilization initiated." On the Perseverance's bridge, Maya watched in horror as the planet began to fracture along new fault lines. The extraction was only 80% complete, the chosen section still partially connected to the dying world. "Kovach, evacuate now," she ordered. "We'll try to use the towing ships to pull the section free." "Negative, Captain." Kovach's voice was eerily calm. "The harmonic resonance needs manual calibration during final separation, or the entire section will shatter. I'm the only one who can do it from here." Maya understood immediately what he was saying. "Dmitri, it's simple math, Captain. One life against billions of theirs. I've got maybe 10 minutes to complete this. Make sure they count." Before she could protest further, Kovach cut the communication. On the surface, he moved with methodical precision, adjusting each cutting beam manually as the world literally crumbled around him. The Thalassian representative, the same crystalline entity that had first greeted Maya, appeared beside Kovach, its light patterns conveying urgency. "You must leave. Death comes." "Not without finishing the job," Kovach grunted, bypassing a failing power coupling. "Your people have anywhere else to go." The beam's patterns dimmed. "No. Then I'm staying. But you can help." He pointed to a complex junction box. "Channel your energy through that circuit. Stabilize the harmonic resonance while I complete the final cut." The Thalassian hesitated, then flowed partially into the equipment. Light surged through the systems, temporarily strengthening the failing connections. Above, the fleet scrambled to adapt to the rapidly deteriorating situation. The cargo vessels struggled against the increasing gravitational fluctuations, their engines straining as they attempted to maintain position. Final evacuation shuttles away, Ortiz reported on the bridge. All human personnel except Kovach accounted for. Maya nodded grimly, her eyes fixed on the telemetry from the surface. "Status of the extraction." 95% complete, Zhao answered. "But the remaining connections are the most critical. If they shatter rather than separate cleanly." She didn't need to finish. Everyone understood that the entire mission, and Kovach's sacrifice, would be for nothing. On the surface, Kovach reached the final control station. The ground beneath him buckled, massive crystal shards exploding upward as the planet's death throes intensified. The Thalassian beside him flickered, its form destabilizing. "Just a little longer," Kovach urged, fingers flying across the controls. "We're almost there." A violent tremor knocked him from his feet. He crawled back to the console, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. The air grew thin as the planet's atmosphere vented through widening cracks. "Captain," he gasped into his comm, initiating final separation sequence. "On my mark. Full power to towing ships." On the Perseverance, Maya leaned forward. "All ships, prepare for maximum thrust on Kovich's mark." Kovich looked up at the fleet above, barely visible through the crystal dust filling the air. Then he looked at the Thalassian beside him, its light patterns growing weaker. "Your people asked for help from Deathworlders," he said with a grim smile. "Well, this is what we do. We survive. We adapt. And sometimes we sacrifice." He pressed the final sequence and felt the ground shift beneath him as the last connections began to sever. "Mark," he shouted as the world exploded around him. In space, the 3 cargo vessels fired their engines at full power, straining against the massive crystal section. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then, with a silent flash visible even from orbit, the section broke free. Immediately, the planet below began to disintegrate, massive chunks spinning away as its core collapsed. The shockwave hit the fleet seconds later, battering the ships with debris and radiation. "Status of the extraction," Maya demanded, gripping her chair as the Perseverance shuddered. "Stable," Zhao exclaimed, surprise evident in her voice. "The crystal matrix is maintaining integrity. Thalassian life signs are strong within the section." A cheer erupted across the bridge, quickly silenced as Maya raised her hand. "And Kovich?" Silence fell. Ortiz slowly shook his head. Maya closed her eyes briefly, then straightened. "Record his name as the first casualty and the first hero of this joint mission. Now let's make sure his sacrifice wasn't in vain." Over the following weeks, the fleet adapted to its new reality. The crystal section, nearly 15 kilometers across, was carefully secured between 3 cargo vessels, a framework of support struts preventing stress fractures during transit. More remarkable was what happened within the crystal itself. The Thalassians, recovering from the trauma of their world's destruction, began to reorganize their consciousness. Their communal awareness spread throughout the salvaged section, creating new patterns, new connections. And they remembered Kovich. 1 month after the extraction, Maya received an unusual request from the Thalassian representatives. They wished her to witness something. Curious, she took a shuttle to the crystal section, now nicknamed New Thalas by the crew. As she approached in her EVA suit, the crystal surface parted, allowing her entry into a newly formed chamber. Inside, she removed her helmet, the atmosphere having been carefully adjusted to human requirements. The chamber walls pulsed with light, patterns more complex than any she had seen before. Then, in the center, a figure began to form, crystalline, like all Thalassians, but shaped unmistakably like Chief Engineer Dmitry Kovich. "We remembered him," came the thought voice of the Thalassian leader. "His patirans, his essence. He lies now, partly, in US." The Kovich figure inclined its head toward Maya, light rippling across its surface in a pattern that somehow conveyed a familiar gruff smile. "How is this possible?" Maya asked, voice barely above a whisper. "We are PATTORN keepers. His DNA, his BRAINWAVEs, his INALTHOUGHTs, all BCAMEPART of our Matrix in those elast moments. This is not him, yet KRI's has essence, a bridge between our POPLs." Maya approached the figure cautiously, reaching out to touch its crystalline surface. It felt warm, vibrating slightly beneath her fingertips. "Can he think? Speak? He learns. We all learn. Together." The implications were staggering. Not just cultural exchange, but a fundamentally new form of existence, human and Thalassian intertwined. 6 months later, the fleet approached their original destination, a promising world in the Ta-CD system. Preliminary surveys had shown it capable of supporting human life, though terraforming would be necessary for optimal conditions. Now those plans had changed dramatically. The southern continent has the ideal composition, Maya explained to her command staff, indicating an area on the holographic display. We'll establish the human colony here, while New Thalas will be positioned in this archipelago. The plan was ambitious. Using their combined technologies, they would create a shared world. The crystal section would be carefully lowered into a prepared bay, its matrix connecting with the planet's natural crystalline deposits. Meanwhile, the human colony would develop normally on the mainland. 2 species, 1 world, Ortiz mused. He had come around gradually to Maya's vision, especially after witnessing the Kovach Memorial. Deathworlders and crystal consciousness. More than that, Maya corrected. A new beginning for both our peoples. The Thalasians teach us connection, harmony with our environment. We teach them adaptability, resilience. She looked out at the approaching planet, feeling a sense of possibility she hadn't experienced since before Earth's final collapse. Humanity stepped into space as survivors, carrying the legacy of a death world that forged us into what we are. Now we arrive as saviors as well, proof that the strength born of adversity can serve creation, not just destruction. The Kovach figure stood nearby, its crystalline form catching the light of the new sun they approach. Through it, the entire Thalasian consciousness observed and participated, no longer afraid of the Deathworlders, but grateful for them. We were Doduar Oini, came the thought voice. When we first KALEDUDAT ORLDERs, we saw only danger. Now we understand. Understand what? Maya asked. That those who nemaest your death beest understand the value of life. As the fleet entered orbit around their new home, Maya reflected on the journey, the risks taken, the sacrifices made, the impossible odds overcome. Humanity had saved more than an alien species. They had saved something within themselves. A reminder that the same strength that helped them survive could help them build, connect, and grow. Deathworlders they might be, but they would use that heritage to nurture life across the stars.